Welcome back to the channel. I want to give you one last shot at this coffee mug because I'm going out today to buy a replacement, and this one is going to Goodwill. I'm continuing this series on how I'm saving money. Today I want to concentrate on travel, specifically airline miles. And while I do have, points that I use to buy airline tickets when I can, and I have a plan in place to earn as many points as possible to do that, I want to make it clear up front that this video is not about points. This video is just simply how I go about trying to choose where I want to go and when I want to go there. And then I worry later about, am I paying cash? Am I paying with points? Those kinds of things. I mentioned in a video a few months back what's in my wallet, and I talked about the American Express Platinum card and the Gold card, and the fact that I had signed up my 3 daughters to be card holders on my account. So anything they spent earned me points. And we were able, with the points on that card, to buy 5 of the tickets of the 11 tickets I needed to purchase to go to Scotland with the family. And those 5 tickets saved me about $6,000. I was later able, with some other credit cards, to get enough points to buy 2 more tickets. So I paid for a total of 7 out of the 11 tickets with points, which meant to me they were $0. And that's the only way I could do that trip. But in this video, I just want to talk about when I am just thinking, I'd kind of like to get on a plane and fly somewhere, but I don't really know where. That's where we're going to start. So let me just take a moment to remind you that this video is being made in partnership with Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is built on the nation's largest 5G network. It took me a while, as I've said before, to take the jump off of the Verizon bridge, as it were, because I've been with Verizon for 20 years. But once I signed up for Mint Mobile and started to see just how much quality I was getting for the price, I've never looked back. They have plans starting as low as $15 a month for new subscribers. Now, that offer is 85% less than the monthly bill that I was paying on Verizon. And using the eSIM to transfer, it's just a download, take a few steps, takes less than 15 minutes, and it is absolutely painless. Now, I'm on the unlimited plan, unlimited data plan, and that's the most expensive plan they have. But depending on your current usage, and I would check that out with your supplier right now, you might get by with a plan that's a little cheaper than that every month and save even more money than I am. I love my Mint Mobile plan so much that even though my first 3 months is not up yet, I've already paid for the next 12 months. But the 12 months that I paid for is about the same price as 3 months as I was paying on my old Verizon plan. As a new retiree, I am looking for ways to save money, but I don't want to sacrifice quality. And by going with Mint Mobile, I have done exactly what I set out to do. I'm saving money every month, and the quality of service is excellent. Now, if you want to try it out, you'll find a link, very first thing in this video, trymintmobile.com/thenewretiredme. And if you sign up, I get a small fee for that. That's part of the program, but it does go to help support this channel. I'd like to thank Mint Mobile for reaching out and offering this partnership. I'm really, really enjoying the Mint Mobile plan, and I think you will too. Now let's go back to the video. Where I do start is Google Flights, and this may be information that you already know or that you've already used, and I'm going to put timestamps in the video about each of the things that I talk about so that if it's something you already know about or know how to do and you don't want to, waste your time looking through that, you can fast forward to something else. I like Google Flights because it's built on the same search engine that Kayak and Expedia and all these other websites are built on, Priceline, all of that. You're going to get the same kind of results. You can book through Google Flights if you want to, or you can book directly with the airlines. I don't book through Google Flights, and I will talk about that why. But the first thing that I do when I think, okay, I'd like to go somewhere, I don't know where I want to go. So what's interesting? I put in here that I want to do a round trip ticket out of Chattanooga, and I leave everything else blank. And I just click explore. And that's going to bring up a map of the world. Now, what Google is going to do is show me the cheapest flights that it can find in the next 6 months. Doesn't go any further than that, 6 months. So you can see here I've got a map of the United States, but I'm not really interested in going to the United States right now. I really want to go back overseas. So I'm going to come over here to Europe, and I'm just going to sort of enlarge this a little bit where you can see it better. So in the next 6 months, I could find a ticket to Rome for $744. Now, 2 days ago when I did this, the cheapest flight to Rome was $1,000. A week before that, it was $768. The airline prices change all the time. The old wives' tale about booking on Tuesdays or staying over a Saturday, that don't really cut it much anymore. But Rome is cheap in the next 6 months. Paris is cheap. London's cheaper. Edinburgh's $734. I paid between $1,100 and $1,200 for tickets to Edinburgh. We'll talk about that again in just a little bit. But there are a lot of cheaper flights, I should say, in the next 6 months. Keep in mind, I'm searching economy tickets, which means that Google is searching basic economy tickets. And typically, basic economy tickets do not allow you to choose your own seat. They don't allow you to pay money to get on board sooner. They generally have you board last, which means if you're trying to fly carry-on, you might still have to check your carry-on at the gate. So there are times when basic economy works for me, but I want to go to Rome, and basic economy is not going to work for me going to Rome. I want a little more comfort than that. If I know where I want to go, I'm just going to close this window and go back to Google Flights. If I know where I'm going to go, then I just put in here that I want to go to Rome. But again, I'm not going to put any dates in. And now, instead of a map, it's going to give me a calendar that goes out a year. So the map shows me 6 months, and the calendar shows me a year. So let's see if I can enlarge this where I can see it. So right now, next month, I'm recording this middle of February. There are actually some pretty decent prices in March, which is typically when I've gone before. March and October, spring break, fall break. I've been locked into those dates. And here's where, let me just back up just a minute and talk about that Edinburgh trip. The more you lock in what you want to do before you search, the less likely you are to find a deal. So my family trip to Scotland, we were locked into dates in March because of spring break and taking the grandkids. And because we want to arrive in Edinburgh, rent a couple of vans, and drive immediately to Dunoon and then to Fort William for the night that day, we needed to arrive as close to 10:30 at the latest. So most of us are arriving around 10:35. Hopefully we'll get there on time. But the more you narrow down your possibilities, the higher the prices of the tickets. And I could not find any cheap tickets, none, during that time period, which is where the points came in. But now I'm going to Rome, and I can say, maybe it's not such a bad thing. Now, I don't want to go to Rome during the summer. I've read bad things about the summer. I have been in October. It's been very nice. So I'm just going to look at the October-November calendar. And you can see down here that in the last week of October, the prices start to fall. Now, 2 days ago, when I looked at this map, so I was sort of thinking through this process, those prices were in the 900s. So at 2 days, it's changed. And if I look over here into November, I was looking at flights on the 3rd to the 12th before, and that sort of works. But if I go like the 29th, which is where I started, and I go to the 7th, those are back down to being fairly decent prices again. So that's where I'm going to start. And so because this is technically the cheapest, I'm going to start leaving on the 29th and flying back on the 7th. That's 9 days. That gives me a day to fly. That leaves me 8 days. And I don't get to do anything on the last day except get on a plane. So that leaves me 7 days that I'm in Italy. Now when I come back here, it populates those days onto the screen. I'm looking for round trip, one person, economy on these days, and the lowest possible flight is $700 and some odd. That doesn't mean it's the best flight, okay? So let's look and see what I've got here. I do have some one-stop flights, so I'm going to change the stops up here to one stop, because if I can minimize layovers, I'm very happy. Here's an American flight. It's 13 hours. It has just over an hour layover, but it's in Dallas, Fort Worth, which means I got to fly in the opposite direction of Italy and then fly a longer overseas flight, and it's $1,000. I don't need that. So then I've got this flight. It's a 2-hour layover in Atlanta. I would leave Chattanooga at 5. I would get into Rome at 10:35. That's not bad. The kicker is what return flights are available for that same price, because sometimes by the time you go to the return flight, it's now up $200 because nothing is available. So I'm going to choose that flight. Again, I'm just looking at things right now. I'm not doing anything. Well, let's hang on a second. Here's a 1:30 to 7:15 a.m. flight. Let's look at both of these flights for just a minute. So here is the flight, returning flights from Rome on the later flight. I get in the afternoon. And here is a flight, no increase in price, but I've got a 6-hour layover in Atlanta. Here's a flight that's $200 cheaper that gives me a 3-hour layover, and another 3-hour layover that's at $200. I mean, more expensive, I shouldn't say cheaper. So let's go back for just a second, and let's look at this flight. There are no flights to get me back for that same price. And this is why you've got to do a little research. Originally, what I had looked at, and I'm just going to go back, I'm going to change these dates here. I'm going to change these dates to the other dates I was looking at earlier. So I'm going to leave on the 3rd and come back on the 12th. Just going to play around with the dates a little bit to kind of see where I'm at. So here is that same flight, 2 hours in Atlanta, and now it's $938 instead of $1,100. Just by being flexible with my days, I found a cheaper flight. So let's look at the return flight real quick. There is a return flight, that 3 hours in Atlanta, that doesn't increase the cost any, $938. So by moving my trip 4 days, I've saved about $200 right up front. Now, again, we're talking about basic economy that I may not want. Now let's go over to Delta. Now, I'm signed into my Delta account. You see I don't have very many miles here. I can shop by miles if I want to do that, but I'm going to purchase this ticket with my Chase credit card, and Chase does not directly transfer to Delta. I have to transfer it to Air France or KLM and then use those bonus miles to fly Delta, and there are no bonus miles available. I've already checked. So I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to do round trip November 3rd to November 12th, which is what we looked at a minute ago. I'm going to do it with one passenger. I'm going to do a quick search, and I'm going to try to find that particular flight from Delta. The very first flight that it gives me is this flight I'm looking at. 5:15 out of Chattanooga, 11:35 arrival in Rome, 2 hours. Is it 2 hours? 2 hours and 4 minutes. That price of $938 is exactly what Google showed me. But let's see what this is. Basic economy. Seats are assigned to me after check-in. I have no say-so where I sit on the plane. I will be the last to board. Can't change that. I can't upgrade. If I want to pay more later to change my seat, I can't do that. If I up to do this $1,118, which I already thought was a fairly decent price, then I can select seats at no extra charge. I will board before the last, but typically what I've found with this type of ticket is I can pay a fee when I check in to get upgraded to board even sooner, because it tells me I'm eligible to purchase upgrades. And it allows me also to check a bag. Now, I don't check a bag, except sometimes I do coming home. If I just don't want to be messing with the bag on the plane during the layover or whatever, if it gets lost, it gets lost. I'm not going to be hurting. I'm at home, but I'm never going to check a bag again going out if I can help it, because after spending a week in Rome without my suitcase, I'm not doing that again. Now, I don't necessarily want to buy this on the Delta site. I'm going to pay for that. Give me just a second to log in here. There'll be a glitch in the matrix. So you'll see up here at the top, I have 153,000 points available on these cards, 3 cards, okay? If I go here, it's going to ask me, what card do you want to search with? Now, you'll notice on my business card, I have 105,000 points. I used to have 30-some-odd thousand points on this card, but I transferred them to my business card. If I need more points, I can transfer points from this to my business card. So I can just use my business card to purchase. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say, I want to book flights. We're going to try this. So we're going to try out of Chattanooga. I'm going to fly into Rome. We're going to choose the dates of November 3rd to November 12th, flying economy. We're going to search flights. Now, remember, this is searching all flights again, not just Delta. This will be American, United, whatever flies. So in order to get back to the flight I was originally looking at, I'm going to click that I only want to see one stop, and I only want to see Delta. And that will help narrow everything down. So here's that same flight, 5:15 out of Chattanooga, 11:35, one stop in Atlanta, $938. Here's the main cabin and the refundable main cabin. So I'm going to look at what's included. So with basic economy, I don't get to check a bag. I don't get a seat assignment. I don't get a refund on my ticket. It's going to cost me money to change anything. In the main cabin, I'm going to get check bags, carry-on bag. I don't have to pay to get a ticket change. The only thing different between that and the refundable main cabin is the fact that I can get a refund. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose the main cabin. I'm not going to worry too much about Comfort Plus. And I'm going to choose that flight. And then here's the return flight again, 1:50, getting in at almost midnight to Chattanooga. It's got one stop in Atlanta. If I look at those flight details, it will tell me it's a 3.5-hour layover from Atlanta. Now, it's only a 2.5-hour drive, but I don't want to take the shuttle. I'll just take the flight. So there's the flight details. I'm going to choose. You'll notice this is the main cabin. If I wanted to downgrade to basic economy, it's going to cost me another $1,000. This is why airline tickets are insane. I'm going to choose this flight. Here's the thing. Here's the reason I'm using Chase to book flights, because this $1,118 is only going to cost me 89,000 points, because if you look right up here at the top, every point is generally worth 1 cent. In the travel portal, a point is worth 1 cent. In Chase, on airline flights, a point is worth 1.25 cents. So it's a 25% bonus, which means that I can buy this ticket with points and not spend any money out of pocket on an airline ticket. Okay, so here's my flight. It's 89,384 points. I want to use all points. I don't want to spend any money. I could choose to keep my points and pay. I don't need a car. I'm not going to book a hotel through this. Now I'm just going to enter my information. There are some things that I'm going to need to add here, so I'm not going to finish this just yet. I'll be right back. All right, so I've got all that loaded. I'm going to have to scour this page really closely to make sure I've covered up any personal information here. I have booked this ticket. I am going to Rome, November 3rd to November 12th. Now I'm going to choose my seats. Typically, I don't like to sit in the window seat. Now, the trip to Atlanta won't really matter. But you can see not a lot of people signed up for this flight yet, so I'm just going to choose this seat right here. No, in fact, I'm going to choose this seat right here. I am going to be in an aisle seat of a row that is only got one person in it so far. And if the plane is not full, I might be in a row by myself. Fingers crossed. Then the flight from Atlanta to Rome. So we started around 23, and it looks like this is 3 sets of 3 seats. And again, I want an aisle seat. I don't mind getting woken up to get people to, come around and go to the bathroom. I don't want to have to wake other people up. I want to have the freedom to get out into the aisle myself. And the first available opportunity I have for that is right here. And I'm going to choose this seat again because somebody will choose that middle seat last. If there's a family flying or a couple flying, they're not going to want to choose that seat unless they have to. So it's just sort of fingers crossed. Now, the return flight from Rome to Atlanta, let's see what I've got here. I've got the same kind of situation right here in the middle, and I'm going to choose this seat right here and leave that one seat between us. This is kind of like the gamble you take when you pre-order seats at the theater. And then from Atlanta to Chattanooga, again, not a lot of people on this plane yet, but it will probably be full. And so I'm just going to choose that seat right there. Now, these are seat requests. These are not seat guarantees. I won't be able to guarantee them until I actually do my check-in. So I have entered my passport number. I've entered my TSA pre-check number, which means nothing to me in Chattanooga, but it could mean something to me in Atlanta. All right, the flight is confirmed. I have a reference. I'm not going to put any of this up on the screen because all of my flight details are here and I don't want everybody to see it. But I have just booked a trip to Rome and back in November, pretty decent weather still, for free. That's why I use points on my credit card. So there you go. I hope you have found this at least somewhat helpful, and follow me in November as I take you on a trip around Rome and Florence. Thanks for watching.